in on Sunday, April 10th, 2022. I'll be having one of my long drives back to New York City tonight, so you have another video coming, but I'm just running out to get some nice big juicy steaks for lunch/dinner and lots of fresh vegetables and fruit, and try and make today feel like we're full of plenty with everybody's favorites. It's a small window to infuse that feeling. I maybe should have been stocked up yesterday, but here I am, and thought I'd say a few words. I've been talking a lot about Jupyter notebooks right at the time where notebooks are becoming a much maligned topic, apparently reducing in popularity. After I pushed out that long video the other day, commenters said from their view, notebooks are on the decline. And I said, it's the calm before the storm. That was my answer. So that kind of what prompted me to shoot up this video here, because whenever a disruptive technology comes down the pike, whenever a change everything technology comes down the pike, there's immediate embrace and displace by Microsoft and others. So the concept of notebooks themselves, which are fundamental and deeply game-changing, the embrace and displace becomes, use notebooks our way, or get all the benefits of notebooks without using them at all. Keep your code as .py files in VSCode and still get the exploratory programming environment. If not all the markdown and stuff surrounding your code, which probably is doable too, right? I can't say this is a distinct difference between VS Code and notebooks, because if VS Code wanted floating markdown blocks in there, they control the code, they can add it. But VS Code seems to have only lifted enough to get that REPL, read eval print loop, the exploratory programming environment inside of VS Code. So that's the largest component of the embrace and displace strategy in play to diminish, dilute, and distract from the true significance of notebooks as a fundamental driver now of the vendor-independent free and open source movement. So it's almost like you have to qualify. There is floss, instead of free and open source, free as in Libre, an open source software, instead of free as in beer, an open source software, because free as in Libre means you retain the rights to the software. There's no gotchas. It's not first sample free, give them the razor, sell them the razor blades kind of approach that, free as in beer is with so much software. And in addition to VS Code, there is, of course, Google Colab and Microsoft Azure Notebooks, which are both cloud implementations of notebooks intended to diminish your use of local, less collaborative, right? Because the big hook in these cloud-based notebooks is collaboration and low technical liability. You don't have to install everything locally or do the other installs sometimes outside the pip system that are required. LXML used to be one of those requirements, but weird requirements are pre-baked in. There's also Binder, which is neither really Microsoft nor Google, but it is another cloud-based notebook technology, perhaps a little less evil because it's not intended to keep you from using local notebooks. It's more intended to just let you share pre-configured environments in sort of a fire and forget way, just so that you can do some knowledge sharing. That's what allows them to bring it to so many people for so little money, for just a little bit of volunteered resources, because there's an efficient freeing up and recycling, the last person's binder space for the next person's, because they keep getting rebuilt, reinstantiated as new notebook environments in the cloud, and then essentially destroyed, So it's it's different than an actual attempt to replace your local install of Jupyter. So let's see. The point here that I'm leading to, because I'm going to have to wrap it up real quick because here I am at the supermarket already, is that notebooks are on the teetering edge. They're on the vibrating edge of being a world-changing technology that can even stand up to all the embrace and displace, all the clouding of the real significance of this new technology, merely by finishing what they've started, finishing up their install procedure and cleaning up their upgrade story and making Jupyter desktop standalone version real easy to get on your machine and real easy to get started with. And then I would say, and it's probably going to be through NBdev, to have a rapid best conventions process, fast track people through a process that gets them from Jupyter to .py files, usually via NBdev. So there's a tool that takes your current .ipynb notebook file and allows you to create a parallel copy of a .py file selectively with this cell from here and this cell from here, and to sort of craft it into a package. And so it's your pathway onto normal .py files, and you're like, why not just use VSCode? And your .ipynb files are .py files. You know, it doesn't support .ipynb, and it's even better because then your GitHub repos are cleaner. The answer to that is because notebooks exist for a reason. Notebooks have had such dramatic uptake for a reason. It is not just a text editor. It's a literate programming environment where the markdown cells are as important as the code running cells. And there's even raw cells, so you can just put data in there in some sort of raw format, not unaffected by programming syntax or whatever. There's other little things, but the main thing to keep in mind is that notebooks do provide an on-ramp to a very old school and powerful and completely free and open source approach. It is not salted with vendor predispositions. It is not designed to turn you into a developer that will have to pay a vendor money in the future. VSCode is not free and open source. There is a version of it out there that is free and open source, but you have to look for it, and you have to ask yourself, is that what you do want to base your career on an extraction that is prepared separate from the mainstream Microsoft distributed version, so that you are already kind of doing fringe stuff, even though you're on VSCode? You just go completely mainstream, Jupyter Lab, you know. You're not using some variation on what they're doing. You're using the main version, which will very soon be the heir apparent to the one that gets installed through Anaconda, or even pip install. You know, I had a friend tell me, you know, you could do this for a while, pip install Jupyter, and I'm like, you know what? Pip install Jupyter would be more popular than it is today if the experience were truly as smooth as what you're talking about. Did you have to deal with path issues? Are there other things other than just pip install Jupyter? Or do you have to pip install other things and make sure that path things are true? What about your virtual environment issues? Is it using your main Python install that you pip installed, or is it making another Python available to Jupyter for, you know? So all these nuanced issues that have to do with the fact that it feels like it's running like a standalone product are usually handled by bundling it into, it's various names for these things, a package. It's a directory with a bunch of stuff in it, including its own Python it's supposed to use. But when you run it, it works more like an executable, a directory that's packaged together with all its dependencies. So that's what Jupyter is doing now to turn it into the standalone product. Yeah, I talked enough. I gotta get in there. I believe in it a lot. Because it has a perfect storm feel to it. It's everything everyone wants and needs for the future, and it is not vendor salted software. Your code is not vendor salted VSCode. It's truly free and open source, free as in Libre. Thanks for joining me. Hope to see you again soon, and don't forget to subscribe.